You can play games wrong. Now before you get angry and start typing a comment, let me clarify what I mean. If you're having fun, I think however you're playing is fine. I don't care if you play on easy mode, I don't care if you save scum, I don't care if you beat Elden Ring using only your fists, God help you. If you're enjoying yourself, that's your business. But what I do think is that you can engage with a game in bad faith. And if you do, I don't think it's fair to call the game bad or even really have an opinion on it. For example, imagine somebody buys Hitman, then ignores disguises, ignores stealth, and runs into every level with an assault rifle. Then they complain that the game is boring, repetitive, and short. Well, yeah, they ignored the entire game. Of course, this is a very dramatic example, but the reason that I've been thinking about this lately is because years ago, I watched somebody do exactly this with one of my favorite games, Just Cause 3. Just Cause 3 released to some pretty mixed reception, but grew into being a cult classic and a lot of people look back on it very fondly. But the whole point of the game is to blow stuff up in cool ways. There is a story, it's in fact a pretty decent one with some pretty fun missions, but for the most part, your main gameplay is that you go into a base and you have to destroy every single destructible object in it, and then you've liberated the base. You've done it. There are so many different ways that you can go about doing this. You can use your grappling hook to pull things open, which exposes internal parts that are very easy to break. You can rip some things out of the ground if your grapple is strong enough. You can drive a car into a big antenna tower. You could just use an RPG or explosives. You could use vehicles. The whole point is that the game wants you to use all of these different tools to break the stuff in cool ways. And then I watched somebody walk through every facility, not use the grappling hook at all, and just shoot everything with the basic assault rifle and occasionally the RPG. And as he was doing this, he was complaining that the game is boring and repetitive. And one of his main points is that the most efficient way to do everything was to just shoot it. Which firstly isn't even true. There are certain objects that your grappling hook one-shots if you pull on the right spot, like these generators that you can unplug. But even beyond that, I remember just watching this gameplay of him walking around, shooting and ignoring most of the game, and thinking, dude, you're not even trying to play the game. You're going out of your way to play the game like this because it's more efficient, while simultaneously missing the main point of the game. Now, Just Cause 3 is of course a pretty niche example, but you know what isn't? Story-driven RPGs. Imagine if somebody picked up Final Fantasy or Xenoblade, and they refused to do any side content, skipped through all of the cutscenes and dialogue, and then told you they didn't like the game because the story wasn't very good. I genuinely think if somebody does this, they played the game wrong. And my reasoning for this is because I really value good faith attempts. What I mean by that is you can sabotage almost anything for yourself, or others even, any experience, by refusing to partake in it in good faith. Have you ever had somebody, maybe a kid, where you go on a trip with them and they just are adamant that they are not going to have a good time? And in being like this, they bring down the entire mood. If somebody is trying something, but going out of their way to not enjoy it and make it bad for themselves, I don't think that they can have a real opinion on the thing. They can certainly say they didn't like it or say they don't like it, but at the end of the day, they didn't even interact with it. Like, imagine if I went line dancing, and I sat on the sidelines, never joined in because I felt too anxious, and then I got back home, and somebody asks me, how did you like line dancing? Can I really give an opinion? The most honest thing I can say is I didn't feel comfortable enough to try it, but if I say line dancing sucks, like, dude, I didn't even try it in this example. And to me, that is what it looks like when somebody engages in a game in bad faith. Now, the important thing that I do want to mention, and that I'm sure that somebody has already written a comment about, I'm not saying that you can't dislike a thing. You can tell me that you don't like story-driven RPGs, so you probably wouldn't like the Final Fantasy games, and Yeah, fair enough. But in my mind, there's a massive difference between stating your likes and dislikes and your preferences, which are totally fair and up to you, versus making complaints about a thing that you never even experienced, you never even tried. If you've never eaten a certain food before, you can say why you think you wouldn't like it, but you don't actually know what it would be like. One game that suffers famously from people trying to gatekeep the correct way to play it is definitely the Souls games. Elden Ring in particular had people constantly complaining that stuff like summons or bleed were basically easy mode. My stance on that is if you had fun playing the game your way, who cares, man? I'd say that's correct. It's really only people who go into a game, play it, hate it, and have nothing but bad things to say about it, while simultaneously not giving it a fair shot, that really make me say, okay, maybe you can play a game wrong. You know, it's funny, I keep using the Final Fantasy example. I literally did this with Final Fantasy VII Remake. I didn't like Cloud, and I didn't like the cast to start, and the combat didn't really click with me. So I spent the rest of the game completely ignoring side quests, even ones that the game said, hey, you should really maybe do this. And the result was that the game felt way, way worse than it should have. Now, what's funny is I came back and replayed Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I still didn't really like it. It wasn't for me. I still found the main character Cloud insufferable at the start of that game. But now if you asked me, what don't I like about it, I can be a lot more objective with it, because I also can list things I did really enjoy, and things I did like, and things that in my first playthrough I completely missed because I was determined to make sure I had a bad time. Anyway, yeah, all I really want to say is if you're going to do something, do it with the intention of trying to enjoy it for what it is. Look for the positives. Don't just sit there determined to be upset, because at that point, you're not going to have a good time. And that's true whether you're gaming or doing something else. Anyway, this was a fun video to talk about. One of those videos that's been on my mind for a while, but I was like, oh god, how do I even begin to word this? As always, thank you so much for watching. I am personally so hyped for Final Fantasy VII Part 3, which was recently announced, and until next time, see ya.